this is Rick Kaselj from exercisesforinjuries.com. Today I have another interview for you, and it's with Tyler Bramlett. And with Tyler, what we're going to chat about is we're going to chat about ab training and core training. But first, I'll get Tyler to introduce himself and let you know who he is.
Well, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate you taking the time to have me on the call and everything. And hello, everybody from Exercises for Injuries. My name is Tyler Bramlett, aka the Garage Warrior, and I'm just a guy who likes to teach people how to move better, how to get better results with their workouts, hell bent on perfect form, and really into movement progressions to take people from really foundational exercises to more complex things safely, because I have a belief that form follows function. So if you want to transform your body, you want to transform other people's bodies if you're a trainer, then you really have to go step by step. And if you do that properly, you can get there safely. And if you don't do that properly, well, then you end up in a mess like most people are in.
Yeah. So we've ran into each other a number of times, like in Miami and Vegas and in Costa Mesa. All the different types of masterminds that we're in. And I think it was in Miami, we had done a video, and we did a video on ab training. And for people that haven't seen the video, maybe you can kind of explain what are some of the kind of mistakes that people make when it relates to core and ab training.
Yeah. Well, Rick, I've had an ab training program out there for about 18 months. And I've gotten really great results with people, just teaching them basic movement progressions that I borrowed from gymnastics and so on and so forth, some from physical therapy. And the biggest mistake I think people make with ab training is that they ignore progression, right? And I say this in a lot of my interviews and articles and whatnot, but they ignore progression. And what I mean by that is, okay, when you get results from something, you have to make progress. Right? If you do bicep curls, you either need to add more reps or more weight or more volume in order to improve the size and strength of your biceps, right? And so people with ab training, maybe they'll add more sets, maybe they'll make an interval longer or something like that. Most of the time, they're just doing the same ab workouts over and over again. Even worse, it's challenging to load an ab training movement, right? So I use the example of a bicep curl. What do? You just get a bigger dumbbell, right? It's not that hard. But when we're talking about, let's say, a plank, right? Everybody wants to hold a plank. They're like, oh, I'm going to go from a 2-minute plank to a 5-minute plank. I read some story about a Navy SEAL holding a plank for like hours, right? And I'm like, okay, that's great. Mental toughness, kudos, bro. I can't do that. But why would you want to do that, right? Wouldn't you rather hold a more sophisticated plank, a more complex plank that activates more core muscles than just a standard plank? And wouldn't you rather hold that plank for 2 minutes and get the same strengthening results as you would if you were to hold it for 5, right? So that's kind of the big mistake, Rick, is that people don't understand that you have to make the exercises more complex for abs because it's challenging to load those movements. And over the long run, if you do this, if you do use these progressions from one step to the next, you slowly make the exercises harder, you're gonna get great results with your core development, which, as you know, it helps with back pain, neck pain, with stability during pretty much all of your exercises, makes you a lot safer in the long run as well. I mean, just look at any gymnast. These guys have the most strongest cores in the world, and they move so well, and they're so strong. It's ridiculous, and that's what I want. I want to teach people how to go from where they're at to ridiculously strong cores with very small progressions.
And then looking at progressions, what are your thoughts when it comes to regressions?
Regressions. This is a great question. I'm happy you asked this one, Rick, because here's the problem. Here's another problem, is that most people will be told to do the plank. Like, walk into any gym, and what you'll see is trainers having people do planks, then they'll have people do one-arm planks with leg raise, blah, 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 and you'll see these people's their pelvis is dipping down, their backs are bowed. They say, my back hurts, and the trainer says, keep going. It'll stop hurting when your core gets stronger, right? And this is asinine. This is just crazy, man. People should never, ever listen to this advice. And in reality, what I do now, Rick, is I take everybody. Doesn't matter if you're like literally like a CrossFit Games competitor, world-class athlete. If you come to me, you're starting at the very first exercise. I don't give a crap if you can hold a plank for 7 hours and 45 minutes. Because guess what? There's a pretty good chance that you're not holding that plank correctly in order to hold it for 7 hours and 45 minutes. You're probably getting lazy here and lazy there and just using enough effort here and there. I want people to be fully activated. So the thing is, like, the core, everybody thinks the core is supposed to move your trunk side to side, front to back, rotationally. But what we now know is the core is supposed to resist movement to the trunk. It's supposed to stabilize the core, not mobilize the core, right? And so when we teach it exercises that stabilize the core, you get significantly better results. And when you take people from the beginning exercises and teach them how to really get active in that stability and keep that activation all the way through these more challenging exercises, you get significantly better results, right? I mean, literally out of 100 planks that I walk by, almost, I would probably say 0 of them are doing it correctly. Right? And let me give you guys a little tip. I'm getting all on fire here. If you guys are holding a plank, 99% of people are going to be pushing up with their shoulders as they hold the plank. They're trying to create pressure from their feet and their shoulders in order to hold the plank position. What I teach is imagine you're holding a plank on your elbows, and instead of pushing up through your shoulders, you're dragging your elbows towards your toes. You're not actually moving them. You're just creating pressure in your lats, your serratus, and even your pecs. Even there, get further. Now squeeze your elbows in towards each other. Don't actually move, just squeeze back and in. And you'll feel your pecs firing even harder. And guess what happens? Your plank becomes a lot harder. And 9 times out of 10, I take somebody who's even has a strong core, we put them in a kneeling plank on their knees, activate them, and they can't even hold it for 1 minute perfectly. So regression, I went off topic there, but regression is extremely important. I think that everybody listening to this call right now should regress to the basics and prove themselves worthy before moving on to more challenging exercise. If you do this, you're not going to be doing more complex planks because it's significantly harder when you do it correctly.
Awesome point. And then, what is your favorite core or ab exercise?
Oh wow, that's a tough question. Well, the way I break down ab exercises is into 2 categories. I break it down into stabilization and compression. Okay, and what I mean by that is simple. Your abs are supposed to stabilize you in a fully extended position, and they're also supposed to stabilize you in a fully compressed position. And what I mean by compressed is your thighs are as close to your torso as possible without excessive spinal flexion and extension. Okay? And so for that reason, I choose a stable exercise like a plank, which you can call anything from a kneeling plank or even a wall plank, all the way to, have you ever seen somebody do a power wheel rollout? Standing on their toes where they use the wheel and they roll all the way out to that Superman position and come back up without losing the stability of their core. That's also a plank exercise. And that's something that you might find 1 out of 1 million people can actually do because their core is that strong. And so that's one exercise is the plank, but I don't think that's the only thing you should do. I would pick that first. The second one would be the compression component. So starting with things like basic bent knee, lying leg raises, alternating lying leg raises, and working slowly and steadily towards more complex movements, all the way to hanging leg raises, and even to more challenging exercises like V-sits and gymnastics. If you, like I said, prove yourself along the way across that progression.
Okay. And then most people think, or they're kind of told, that they can get everything they need when it comes to challenging their core and challenging their abs from one exercise. What is your thoughts on that?
From one exercise, well, I mean, it depends on what exercise they're talking about. But like I said, if you're talking about an exercise with limitless options for progression and regression, then yeah, if you want to do that, that's fine. If you want to have a plank be your go-to ab exercise, and let's say you started a wall plank where you're holding all that activation I'm talking about, you keep your glutes tight, your quads tight, your lats, your pecs, your core, everything is nice and solid, tall posture to the top of the head, you're keeping that abdominal bracing intact the entire time. If you go from that wall plank to a kneeling plank, to a half kneeling plank, to a plank, to a one-legged plank, to a one-arm plank, one arm, one leg, then you do a Swiss ball, you do some rotations on the Swiss ball, you work towards rollouts, then yeah, I would probably say that you can get great results from one exercise. But if you think you're just going to get great results from one exercise, like I'm just going to do sit-ups, well, guess what? It's not going to happen. Right? So I think if you're talking about an exercise with progressions and regressions, then you can absolutely get fantastic results. But if you're just talking about one exercise, then like I said, you guys might want to look into some smarter designed ab training.
Good point. Good point. Now, you mentioned the plank a lot, so it might be the answer to this question. What is an example of a core and ab exercise that people should do? If there's like one that you would get people to do, what would it be?
Okay, so I did mention the plank a lot, but something that happened fairly recently within the last about 18 months is I met with a guy named Dr. James Vager. And James Vager is a really brilliant physical therapist. He's in my hometown. And it was a really strange series of events that kind of led me to meeting with him. My wife, she was pregnant. She ended up having a C-section. Her core couldn't activate. I'm pissed at myself because I think I'm this smart personal trainer, and I can't get her core to work properly. And so I find this guy, Dr. James Vager, who He's worked with the Prague School of Rehabilitation, doing things like dynamic neuromuscular stabilization. Dr. Shirley Sharman, is that right? She's
Yeah.
a really popular physical therapist. He's worked with a lot of these people who have really changed the way that physical therapists think in terms of rehabilitation and recovery. And so when I saw him do the exercise with my wife, and I was just like, what are these things? They look stupid, right? They look like little baby infant motor pattern things, right? And I'm like, this is lame. And then he puts me on my back and he goes, try it. And I try to do what he calls an elevator, right? Which is where, if you guys are listening to the call, you can take your two fingers and you can put them between the top of your hip bone and your belly button, right? And then all you're going to do is push your fingers out, imagining your belly is the elevator and your fingers are the people. And then the trick is, do that without your breath. Push out against your fingers without you having to go and breathe into your belly, right? So once he showed me that exercise, and I realized I couldn't do it, I realized I had a big hole in my game. And so I started going through some of his exercises, his sequences, stuff like that. Recently, we partnered on a new product that he teaches all of his core activation sequences techniques on. So I would say that, I love planks, I love compression exercises, but nowadays when somebody comes to me, the first thing they learn is this exercise, the elevator, that I just described to you.
Okay. And looking at core and ab training, is it something that people can end up doing in their workouts every single day?
Yeah, this is a good one for debate because, a lot of people say that the ab muscles stabilize your spine and they're constantly being used. They're probably the most used muscle out there. I agree with that if we weren't sitting on our asses all day, right? The reality is most of us are sitting, and a lot of times we're sitting in, like lazy boy chairs. I don't know about you, but my belly gets really relaxed when I'm sitting in a lazy boy, right? And so traditionally speaking, your abs probably didn't need a lot of training because you were moving around, you were using them all day long, you weren't sitting as much. I think that traditionally speaking, that might be true. But another side note to this is that abs are just a muscle too. If you work them out too hard, they need a little bit of rest and recovery. So do I think you need to train your abs every day? I don't think you need to train your abs every day. I think that going with the gold standard, a day of work, a day of rest, maybe 3 days a week, I think that's a great place to start. Plus, to be honest, when it comes to me training people, I want them to succeed. And the last thing I want them to do is be told, okay, you can get abs with this program, or you can build a strong core with this program, or shrink your waist with this program, but you've got to do it every day. Like, nobody's going to do it, right? I don't care who you are. Nobody's going to do that every single day. But if I tell you 3 days a week, give me 2 to 8 minutes, right? Add this into the end of your workout or put it in your off days at home, I think that's pretty dang reasonable. So I think that the better way to look at it is what's sustainable, not what's optimal in that sort of respect. Hope that all makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, we're reaching the end of the call. Is there any last points or comments that you wanted to leave people with?
I think with all things, people just need to realize that a lot of the things that they're hearing about are like overblown fads. We were kind of talking about this a little bit, is that there's a lot of programs out there that are really popular and really successful that may not be the best design for people, may not be the best design, especially for normal people who really want to optimize their movement. And to me, the first time, and I'll admit this, I was a cocky trainer. I'm still a little cocky, but I was a cocky trainer back in the day. And I remember when I had my first injury in a group class. And I went home and I was just wrecked by it. I was like, why the heck? I'm supposed to build somebody up and I ended up breaking somebody down. And so that really touched me. I was like, I did something wrong. I did something wrong there as a trainer. I'm doing my job improperly. And the reality is, most people, the trainers teaching people at the gyms, a lot of these programs, they just don't have the design that allows people to safely go from simple stuff to complex stuff, right? And that's what you need first. You need a well-designed progression or regression, like we talked about, that takes you from simple stuff to complex stuff. And along the way, you should get stronger, you should look better, you should feel better, you should perform better, you should not get injured, you should not have more pain. And sometimes people just think no pain, no gain, I'm going to push through it. And I'm just really not a fan of that. So for anybody listening, the number one thing you got to do is just find the right progressions to start you from basic stuff to take you to more complex stuff. And then I always tell people this, last thing I always tell people, be consistent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so much out there. You just got to be consistent. Find something and someone that resonates with you. If you like them, be consistent with their stuff. You don't have to stick to one program for the rest of your life, but if you're going to grab something, try it for 90 days, right? Try it for 90 days and see if it makes a significant transformation in your life. If it does, keep doing it. If it stops working, try something else. But be consistent, right? You can't just work out 5 days a week, 7 days a week, 4 days a week, one day, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, I'm getting back to it. It doesn't work like that. So you got to be as consistent as possible, and that's why, like we talked about before, just having people do things simple 3 days a week is one of my favorite ways to approach it.
Perfect. And then where can people get more information about you, Tyler?
Well, you can go to garagewarrior.com. That's my blog. I haven't been posting a lot there lately because I've been trying to polish up this new product that I told you about a little bit earlier with Dr. James Vager. It's called 0 to 6-Pack Abs, and the website is 0-6packabs.com, and those are the numbers 0 and 6. And you can check out kind of the whole story about how I met Dr. James Vager and kind of his core activation techniques there. And it's a pretty crazy story. And also, I'm just really proud of this product because, as the name denotes, we're trying to take people from 0 to 6-pack abs, right? So we're trying to take people who, let's say they got out of a C-section, or they just had abdominal surgery, they've had back pain or neck pain or whatever it is. We're trying to take those people who can't do a crunch or a plank because they just have too much, they don't have enough strength yet. We're trying to teach them how to activate their cores properly using James's techniques, and then take them through a proper progression all the way to complex exercises like I just described to you.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Tyler, for your time.
You bet, brother. I really appreciate you asking me to be on the call.
No worries. And everyone at exercisesforinjuries.com, thank you very much for watching this or reading this or listening to this. This is Rick Kaselj from exercisesforinjuries.com with Tyler Bramlett from garagewarrior.com. Make sure to swing by exercisesforinjuries.com. Enter in your injury or pain. There's a good chance they have an article, video, or an interview that'll help you overcome your injury or pain. Secondly, if you're watching this on YouTube, head up above, hit subscribe. What that'll do is every couple days you'll get a video like this. This is kind of like an interview, or you'll get a video where I kind of talk about exercise that you can do to overcome injury or pain. And then thirdly, head down below, hit like, and leave a question or comment for myself or Tyler. So this is Rick Kaselj and Tyler Bramlett saying take care and bye-bye.